Um, yeah, good. So, Jonathan, I'll give you the floor first, okay? Because I know you had a couple of announcements about where we're at with a few of the projects.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Good news, I guess. The VFD finally arrived that we've been waiting on for months. It's been installed and programmed and works as it should at Boy Scout. And also we did make some progress on the generator up there. And between South Shore, Butch Nealon, and Chris McLaughlin, they didn't make it up there this weekend. And I just heard from Chris this afternoon that he plans on to be up there tomorrow, hopefully. I guess there's about 3 parts that are related to the voltage regulator. Initially, only 1 was replaced. He ordered the others. He's going to start by replacing those other 2. And then he's thinking that we should have that running as it should. I did see it run, the generator run the VFDs, or at least one VFD without a hiccup. Just settings keep reverting back. It's like something's not saving, and we keep going back to shutting off when the pump comes on. But I did see it run for a period of about 45 minutes straight, no problem. So that's definitely good progress, headed in the right direction. And those are really the only 2 big updates I had.
Okay. Fine, great. Thank you for that. So then I think I'd like to just move on to the issue of the Dig It proposal, and to let you know that Kurt and I did have a phone conversation with Tyler and Paul last week, and I'm going to ask them to kind of fill in on that, where we're at with that, what came out of that discussion. I think it was a very productive phone conversation.
Okay, thanks, Joe. I can start it off, and I'll have Tyler pull up the actual document in a few minutes. But as you know, we came up with a scope of work for at the Coles Neck well field to do several things. Number one, the existing well number 2, we believe it may have a poor screen or a poor well casing. We don't know, but one of the scope items that's very important is to put a camera down well number 2 and see exactly what the problem is. And then if it is in very bad condition and warrants full replacement, we have a price for that as well in the menu of options that Dig It gave us pricing for. The other work is to also put a camera down well number 3, see what condition that is in. And then to replace the piping from each well up to the building with 6-inch cement-lined ductile iron pipe. And then separately, we want to replace everything inside the building, go from 2-inch piping up to 4-inch piping, replace the mag meter, replace the chemical injection quills. We don't have enough money to replace the entire building and make it a bigger building like the Boy Scout camp, but so be it. So I think we requested a laundry list of pricing items from Dig It, and we went back and forth a couple of times. The last item on the list was to replace the generator out there, which is a nice to have item, but upon further discussion with Kurt and Jim last week, seeing that the generator appears to be finally being fixed over the Boy Scout camp, that will give you peace of mind and comfort if there is a power outage. Having the generator replaced at the Coles Neck well field at this time is not critical. Their price was approximately $60,000, 60 and some change. Our recommendation is that you accept all of the other prices, and you can either defer or postpone buying a generator at the Coles Neck well field until the future. That's the short version of it. I think the biggest item, and from memory, it's about $140,000 or so, was the cost for a new well to replace well number 2 out there. Tyler, do you mind? Yeah.
Sorry. Is that, I didn't see that on the list. Is that where is that, Paul?
Tyler, can you pull up the PDF if you don't mind? I think it was on page 2, Jim.
I just need screen sharing enabled.
Karen, can you make that happen? I don't know if she stepped away, but
Nope. I
No,
think
you're
we're
all
fine.
set. I got it.
All right, so as Paul mentioned, this is our first, this is the plan. Is this what you want me to show, Paul? Or do you want me to go to the?
Actually, I want
Right.
the pricing sheet, Tyler, the PDF of the revised pricing that showed the pricing for the individual items, and in particular,
Sure.
the well replacement item, if you have it handy.
Oh, so I have it here as an Excel file, so.
No, but the actual, okay, but the PDF of their actual quote,
Yeah, let me pull that up. Stop sharing.
which I think is what Jim has in his hand as well. It was in the email that we sent to the town a few weeks ago.
Yep. Just pulling up our network right now. Didn't realize I had the wrong file open. Apologies.
Okay.
oh, wait a minute, I see, it's item 2B, is that it? New 12-inch diameter replacement well?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you pull it up, Tyler, if you have it?
Yep. I'm
PDF?
pulling it right now.
It was on page 5.
So I mean, that's the biggest item, Jim, on the list, or one of the biggest items on the list. But to me, that's, if indeed well number 2 is shot, then that money is well spent.
Right.
We also, I mean, mathematically, we want to stay below the 25% change order limit on a public works construction contract.
Right.
We believe the pricing from Dig It is fair and reasonable, and we recommend that the generator be excluded. So yeah, here we go, Tyler. Yeah. So if you just scroll down, Tyler. So the item, yeah. So item 2B is $155,000, and then the grand total, Tyler, at the very bottom. You just keep going down to the page down. So it's 446,625, but we recommend that item 30, the generator of 61,000, be deferred at this time because it's not necessary if you have a functioning generator over the Boy Scout camp, and or you may be able to buy a cheaper generator through the Barnstable County bid or through Public Works at a later date. So all told, I guess we would respectfully request that the board accept our recommendation to approve the pricing received from Dig It, with the exception of the not including the work under item 3O, new generator. And if you take action on that tonight, Jim, we will formally prepare a change order in the net amount. I guess I'm doing the math here.
The net amount I have right here. It's sorry.
Yep.
So
So
net amount is $385,625.30.
That is net of the generator, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right.
I think
Any discussion from anyone?
Is the current generator capable of handling any increase in the size of the pump, particularly well number 2?
I do not, we don't have any reliable information, Neil, about the existing generator at the Coles Neck camp, Wellfield. We do not know, maybe Whitewater does, but we have not been able to find a nameplate or a reliable information on that.
Is there a serial number?
We do not also know if the existing generator, we cannot confirm, perhaps Jonathan can, if it's operational right now.
I believe the last report we had from South Shore was that it was not repairable. I don't know, Jonathan, if you have more information than that.
Yeah, everything I've been told is it does not generate electricity, but the engine does run. I don't know if it'd be worth having someone like Chris take a look at it and get his thoughts on it. But that's all I know. And yes, that there hasn't been clear and definite answers on anything relative to that, 'cause it sounds like it hasn't worked in quite some time.
Right.
Isn't it about time we fired South Shore Generator and got a reliable firm in there?
What are our options?
I don't know. They can't be the only generator place on this Cape or nearby. And they've done a lousy job for us. And there are generators on the Cape that do work. So why are we putting up with their incompetence?
Yet there's other generator companies for sure, and there are some that Whitewater already has contracts with that we could look into as well.
Okay.
I mean, this has been going on for over years.
Mhm.
So, in answer to your question, Neil, no, we don't know whether or not that generator has the capacity to, if there's a new well installed there that has a larger pump. So,
The other thing that I think we ought to be thinking about too is, priority is really to get the Boy Scout camp generator running correctly and dispatching correctly. The generators there, in the event that, we have a series of sort of catastrophic events happen, which is basically a power outage that's going for an extended period. And right now, probably it would take a couple of days before we'd actually, run out of water in the peak times and actually have to, get that generator running to refill the tower. So we have quite a long time for power restoration just with a Boy Scout camp generator. So from a safety and reliability standpoint, that's one thing to keep in mind. The other is that the water system is prioritized by Eversource to be one of the first things to come back online because it's critical municipal infrastructure. So the risk of having a long-term power outage for the water system is very low. And so if we have the backup generator working at the Boy Scout camp, in the unlikely event that we get a power outage for more than 3 days, we have backup water. So having a generator at the Coles Neck site right now, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense because it's just more equipment that has to exercise and run, and it would only be required in the most remote kind of a scenario. So I think we ought to think that through in terms of whether we actually really even need one there or not. Would be sort of how I'm looking at it. So I think there's close to zero risk right now in not having a generator at Coles Neck, as long as the Boy Scout camp generator is in fact working the way it's designed.
I'd like to ask Jonathan for a moment here. If you're aware of other systems that have wells or well fields that do not have a generator?
Every community water system like Wellfleet is required to have one. And the only other, I can only speak to Eastham as far as having 2 well sites, and they do have generators at both. All the other ones only have 1 well site with 1 generator that we run. So I know that won't really help you out as far as the answer you're looking for, but I would have to look into it myself if it's supposed to be a requirement that every station or well field has one. I can't say for sure if that's true or not.
Paul, do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, I do. In general, it depends on the community is the first answer, but in general, depending on the number of redundant supplies you have, Jim, some communities have a hookup for an emergency. They may have one mobile generator that they bring around to different sites. If most communities who have their largest source have a full-time dedicated generator at their largest source. Some communities have I call a portable generator where you can hook it up to an outlet and bring it in the event of an emergency power situation. So I'm sure that I suspect the DPW may have a portable generator to provide power to maybe some municipal buildings in the event of a power outage. So, but I think Kurt's point is accurate here. I think if we need to make sure that the Boy Scout camp generator and VFD are fixed once and for all, and that generator is in pristine condition. And then the need to have a generator at the Coles Neck well field is marginal. So if the town gym wanted to have a, like for example, Provincetown has water and sewer pump stations. I know they have a portable generator that they bring around to several of their sewer pump stations. They also have a water treatment plant where they have a dedicated generator. They have a smaller site remotely in North Union Field that I don't believe has a, actually no, it does have a standby generator, but most communities for their largest supply have a dedicated generator. If you wanted to explore the option of a portable generator, it's something that you could do in the future, but you're not going to be required to have one at the Coles Neck well field. I can confirm that with DEP tomorrow, but I don't believe you're going to be required to have one.
Well,
We may also, it might even be worth checking with police and fire. We may have a portable generator in town already too. And then we also, I think, still need to reach out to Eversource, because I know during the last power outage, they had portable generators at certain locations, and it's worth investigating what capacity Eversource has in the event that we actually needed backup generation like that.
Yeah. Now, the only quirk here is because there are something called variable frequency drives in that run the well pumps. Basically, it's without going off into an electrical engineering sidebar here, but the generator needs to be rated for what's called an inverter duty rating for variable frequency drives, because the VFDs control the motor, which controls the well pump. So the generator needs to be suitable to run, variable frequency drives and to avoid the sensitive voltage regulator issues that you've experienced over at the Boy Scout camp. But that's something that you can verify with if police and fire have a standby unit. Can it provide power to motors that are serviced by variable frequency drives?
Well, I think we're in agreement that we're taking it out of this bid for the Coles Neck well field, taking the generator out of that. And I think that it will still be an item for discussion going forward as to what we do if there were a need for a backup generator there, how we would manage that. So, but at least I think what I'd like to see is if we can get to the point of a vote on accepting the pricing from Digit for the work exclusive of the generator. And is there any further discussion before we make a motion to do that?
I don't have anything. I guess I would move that we approve the contract for Digit to.
If not, then I'd like for a motion.
Yeah, I would, Jim, can you hear me?
You fade in and out there, but
Sorry, I would move that we approve the contract for Digit to undertake the repairs as outlined in their proposal at the Coles Neck well site.
exclusive of the generator.
Exclusive of the backup generator.
Okay,
Second,
okay. We'll take a vote then on it. Tom,
Aye.
Neil,
aye.
Kurt,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. So it's 4 to approve the contract with Digit, and it was a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Okay, so Jim, what we'll do next is we will prepare a formal change order document for signature by the new town administrator, or Becky Slick, to sign, and it'll be formally executed by dig it and by the town, and we'll get that submitted in the next couple of days.
So, Becky, that would be, it would go through to you, correct? You still with us?
Jim, can you repeat that? I just took a phone call. I'm so sorry.
So, I mean, we approved the bid from Diggett, exclusive of the generator.
Generator.
And Paul is willing to put together the contract document for that and get it over to you. Is that the correct way we're going to do it now? It doesn't go through Rich, correct?
Yeah, they gave me permit. The select board gave me permission to sign for these.
Okay.
Okay.
So you can email it to me.
Okay, so Becky, we'll prepare it, we'll send it over to you, we'll copy the water board, and we'll get Diggett to sign it, and then we'll get you to sign it, and it'll be finally executed, and then we will move ahead with the work. That sounds good. We just need to then let DEP know that we're going to be doing these modifications to the Coles Neck well field, and we'll come up with a schedule with Diggett. I guess if I can just finish while we're on the topic, Jim, Diggett's overall work, I mean, as you know, Becky, they've essentially completed 99% of the work under their base water main contract so far. So this work, we'll have to talk to them about the schedule for doing this, but Tyler, do you have any update on their schedule for this or not?
I have not, because I have not given them any indication of the approval of this, so I don't believe it is currently something that they have put in their schedule.
Right.
Know that I've been in contact with Diggett, and they are curious to see if it gets approved, but I have not given them an update on the approval.
All right, so I think in terms of schedule wise, because most of the work, I guess what I'm getting at is most of this work is obviously in the woods at Coles Neck. It's not going to affect tourism or summertime in Wellfleet. It's out of harm's way. So once we figure out their schedule, Jim and Becky, we'll let you all know. But we'll get the documents squared away first of all, and we'll go from there.
Good.
Okay,
Thank
just
you.
real quick, Paul, are you going to be around tomorrow? I'd just like to talk to you about how I'm going to word this with the grant documents.
Sure. Yeah. I got a meeting in the morning. If you want to give me a call after 11 a.m., I've got a site meeting in the morning, but after 11 o'clock, just call me, Becky, on my cell phone.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
No problem. And also, I can help you with the grant reimbursement if you need help with that for Q2 for this year or whatever that's due.
Yeah, I think I'm on Q4 because it
Or
goes
whatever,
by fiscal year, but yeah, I actually was looking at all of that today and getting the bills together. So I guess we could just make it all one conversation. That would be great.
Sure. Okay. Very good.
Is there another pay app coming, Tyler?
There will be.
Pay app 5?
Yeah, there will be another
Okay.
pay app coming. You should see that shortly. I'm
Okay.
reviewing it currently.
Okay, great. So maybe after I get that, we'll talk about that part.
Sure.
All right.
Paul, just one other quick question before we leave the topic.
Sure.
In terms of closing the loop on getting the dispatch set up with SCADA.
Oh, yeah. About staggering all the wells and having a kind of a rotating bullpen of wells in operation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess so. Separate items. So last week, Jim and I and Tyler and Kurt spoke about, I guess, John, this really is pertinent to you, is after we get the Boy Scout camp well up and running, and after we get the Coles Neck well field tuned up and running, we really want to get a rotation of the wells going. And it's probably going to require some programming from Butch Nealon, because once we have, in the past, I mean, Coles Neck has pretty much been turned off due to a variety of issues, which I'm not going to go into again. But once it's restored, we want to have a rotating schedule where, and there's no reason why it can't be done through SCADA, where, let's say, Boy Scout camp well number 1 comes on for, let's say, for a portion of the day. Then if the tank is calling for water, then Boy Scout camp well number 2 can come on. And then the following day it can be Coles Neck 1, 2, or 3. We want to have a rotating schedule here of well, so the wells are always working and they're being turned over. It's going to require some programming work with Butch Nealon, and I know I've worked with him in other communities where we have, for example, in Provincetown and Truro, they have 3 different well supplies that come on at different levels, and depending on demand, certain wells can come on to supplement supply. So I guess, Kurt, to answer your question, we can ask, or you can ask Butch Nealon, or Whitewater can ask him what it would cost to do some programming to come up with a well rotation schedule is what I think we should call this. And then we should implement this well rotation schedule on a diligent basis so that the Coles Neck well field is operated on a regular basis, and it's not sort of sitting idle out there. That's the intention, Jonathan. I think I would ask maybe that you just put that bug in Butch's ear. Once all the work is completed at Coles Neck later this summer, we can certainly put that in operation, Kurt. And I think without speaking here about Whitewater's contract and Butch's contract, it's going to require some programming from him. I don't know what that will cost, but I don't think it should cost more than a day of software programming time from Butch Nealon is my guess.
Yeah, I talked to Butch a couple times a week, and I don't see any problems with anything you just said. So,
all right, good, because I think it's really important we do this on a regular basis, because we've seen the downside of just turning things off for a long time. It doesn't lead to a good operating system.
nope, I agree. So I'll talk to Butch about that. I don't know if he'll be able to give you an exact price, but I'll get his thoughts on it.
Yeah, I guess I would just say for the board's benefit, just if you can have some idea of what it will cost to do it, and then when it can be implemented. But I guess, Kurt, I'd say it can be implemented in the fall, probably after all this work is done. And it's something I think that should be reported on every month at this meeting from Whitewater and Butch. And maybe you have a chart on, Coles Neck well number 1 ran for 20 hours last month, and Coles Neck 2 ran for 40 hours. And so you can see that these wells are all being turned over and running for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and I think it's part of the scope of the Coles Neck improvements. So the other thing that's in the back of my mind is that the funding, I believe, should come out of the same pot relative to the Coles Neck improvements.
Yeah, I think we have money. I think we have money without, I guess, overall we have money. Thankfully, we got good business job and we have money, quote unquote, left over to do this extra work we're just talking about. And my guess is, this extra work for Butch and the programming shouldn't cost more than $5,000 maximum is my guess. That's just my guess. But then there should be money in this budget to take care of that. How we do that, I guess I can talk to Becky about it once we figure it out, because right now the contracts the town has are with environmental partners for our engineering work and then with Diggett for our actual construction work. I don't know if you can, and maybe you can have a third contract with Butch to do this, but we just need to look at the wording of the grant and see if that can be done.
But if we've already exhausted the funds that were in from the grant, then we would be using
the balance
money that was borrowed by the town. Correct, Becky?
Yeah. And I don't think that we've exhausted all of that. I have to check and see what of the 3.8 that we actually borrowed. I have it. I think I sent you the report a few weeks ago. I don't have that in front of me right now.
I believe.
But from a procurement, go ahead. Sorry.
It was about 1.3 million was borrowed from the 3.8.
I think you're right, 1.365 or something, yeah. Yeah, and now that once we get this pay app 5, we could regroup and see what the balance is.
Right.
Yeah. So I
But
guess
from a procurement standpoint, it's under 10,000, so I don't see that being an issue. And if it is related to this, then I think the grant should be fine too, but I can check with Nicholas, the grant administrator, on that as well.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. That way it's not coming out of your operating budget or your current Whitewater budget. Okay, so yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just have like a small scope you could send me.
Yeah, I'll work it up and we'll get it over to Becky probably within the week or so.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Paul.
Sure.
Yes. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Tyler, on that. We're going to move on then to hopefully finalizing the discussion around the connection fees and water rates. So I mean, you guys are welcome to stay with us, or you can go on with whatever you need to do for the rest of the day. So,
Yeah. As much as I love talking to all of you, I'm going to move on to something else. Don't take it personally, but it was good talking to you all.
all
Hey,
right.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Take care.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
Tyler.
Good. Jonathan, you're welcome to stay as well if you like, or you can head out if you need to.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I might just keep listening, but it might
That's
not be
fine.
working.
Perfectly
Okay.
fine.
All right.
So let's see. Okay, so the moving ahead, we wanted to follow up on the discussion that we were having regarding the connection fees and the water rates. So I know that there's a few other items in that we have to resolve. So Kurt, do you want to pick up on this?
Sure. I think, I think what we had approved the change in rates, connection fees rather, to 750 per connection. We've approved the rates that the consultant had drafted with one slight modification. And I think where we are in the discussion at this point is what, if anything, to do with regard to people who are currently in payment programs under the old connection fee structure. And also people who may have paid their connection fee but not connected to the water system and are currently being charged.
Or a base service fee, correct?
Base service fee regardless of whether they're taking water or not.
Right.
So those are kind of the two items. And I mean, I think with regard to people, my own feeling is that people who are, currently in the process of making payments, that we should suspend those payments. And they shouldn't have to be required to continue to pay if they've, if they've previously agreed to a, connection fee arrangement. And I don't think there's much else we can do except that we're moving through a set of rate changes, and that's kind of where we are.
So my understanding is that the next step with this would be that once we come up with our recommendations on this, that we need to hold a public forum regarding that before they're actually implemented. Am I correct?
Yes, we have to hold a public hearing, and my thought on the public hearing would be that we would advertise that public hearing as a joint meeting between the Board of Water Commissioners and the Board of Selectmen. So, we've taken votes recommending these rate changes, and then the Board of Selectmen, I think we would want to have them approve them as well. We don't have to, but I think because there's a wholesale set of changes, it makes sense to do that.
Would a meeting with the select board then be advisable before we have the public meeting?
Well, it can be the same meeting, Jim, because if the Board of Selectmen advertise, you'll often see that they'll have a public hearing as part of their agenda. And it's just simply that particular meeting gets noticed in the local papers as a public hearing, with the advice to the public that it's about rate setting for the water system. And it's a public hearing requirement that be noticed differently than a normal meeting. And that would qualify as the public hearing on the rates.
I would disagree. I would not like to see the select board involved. I think it would set a bad precedent that they would expect us to come to them when we have our duties to do and prove to do them, that we have to go to them. Secondly, you're going to get a lot of extra discussion, which is going to be wasteful in time and effort and accomplish nothing. And I think we would better hold our own private or public meeting and go from there.
Any other comments on that? I know we don't have to do it, Tom. We don't have to.
That's why I think we should not. Remember, the select board is not too well organized, and things could get out of hand, and they would think they have to vote on it. And it's going to I think it would, too many complications would arise.
Any other thoughts on that? All right. But I asked about that because we do need to have the public hearing. But I think that there are still some issues that we have to kind of come to agreement on, including the whether or not we're going to continue to charge, as Kurt was suggesting, of whether we're going to continue to charge a base service fee for those people who have signed an agreement to connect but have yet to connect, and so that whether we would suspend the base service fee until such time that they actually connect to the system, and also for those people that have not finished paying the connection fee, whether we would suspend any further payments on that, those people.
Ooh, that's a complicated one. I think obviously people that haven't turned on the new means and things like that would definitely just go with the new rates. I think the suspending of all other payments that you suggested earlier is probably a good idea. Anyone that hooks up now that has not paid more than our new rate would not have to pay any more.
Okay, in terms of the connection fee itself, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that, Kurt?
No, I think that's the right thing to do. I just think that's the right thing to do.
So what we would be then recommending is that we suspend, or that we suspend any further payments for connection fees, at this time, and also suspend the base service fees for those who have not connected to the system.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, as far as the base service fee itself, are we agreed on what the base service fee should be at this point? I believe we had talked about increasing it from the current level up to $125 for a single family residence, and twice a year, from the current level, which I think is just under $90 now.
Yeah, that was part of our motion, I think, Jim, when we actually discussed the full suite of the rates themselves.
Did we? I don't recall that we did
Yeah.
have that in there. Okay.
Yeah, we adopted the rates that that were recommended by the consultant, with the only change being that he had the $1.40 reduced to $1.38 on the first tier.
Right, and
And we're currently at $1.40. It didn't make any sense to go down, so we just kept the $1.40 at the first tier, but that was the only.
did we indeed include the base service fee being increased to $125?
Right. Yeah, that was part of that motion. It was basically to adopt the rates as recommended by the consultant, with the exception of the first tier.
And okay, and then again with that, we did we agree to how we would handle a multi-unit property? Was it? I know we discussed it, but did we have a final decision on that?
No, I don't think we did talk about that. That was still an open item.
So
It wasn't really clear in his. He recommended the unit method, but we did not actually, I think, take action on how to implement the unit method. I think we did talk about a change to the wording so that the additional service charge would apply to
any residential unit, as I recall.
Yeah, we changed the wording though to follow the zoning board definitions of a residence.
Right.
So actually, we did do that. Now that I think about it, we did actually do that.
So,
Did we consider the term dwelling?
Yes, that was exactly what we did, rather than residence, because it's unclear.
so well, let's
Yes.
split this up and let's talk about the base service fee that we have agreed to already would apply to every dwelling. And if there are, say, if it's a duplex, that would be 2 dwellings. Is that correct? Is that the way you're reading that?
Yes, and that the block for water use rates would be multiplied by the number of dwellings, so that, for example, the first tier of 20,000 20,000 gallons would be multiplied by the number of dwellings. Each block would be multiplied by the number of dwellings to calculate the water usage rates.
Right.
So they pay the base service fee, but for each dwelling, their blocks are increased.
So the base service fee would apply to, if it's a 10-unit property or 10 dwelling property, the base service fee would apply to each of those 10 dwellings.
Correct. So it would be $2,500 a year.
Yes.
And in the first 6 months, their block of 20,000 would then be 200,000. The subsequent block would be 600,000 for the purposes of calculating the water usage fee.
Right. Any questions, Tom or Neil?
No, I think that's pretty much the way it hashed it out.
Okay. I kind of like to see this all down in writing before we actually make that recommendation. I think it'd be, so I'm wondering if there's any way that you could take a stab at that, Kurt?
Yeah, I can look at the, I'll go through our minutes and look at the motions that we've taken.
Yeah,
And then, do sort of a communications piece that will, reference the rate consultants' work and then also our votes to make that clear. So it's sort of like
Okay.
But I think what we're talking about too is having a drawn up written motion, because we've talked about so many things during this, on this motion last time and this time, that to have a written one to present ourselves would be good.
yes.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
should be like a final document that you're gonna present instead of referencing the votes to what the consultant said, because then there's gonna be more argument back and forth when you guys have already made the vote and decided. So it should be whatever the consultant wrote, maybe redline it for the purposes of your meeting so that you can see the changes and then adopt a final document to bring forth in your public hearing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but I
No,
just.
that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what we do is we have, it's actually pretty simple. We have a current set of rates, and then we would have a proposed set of rates. So it shows clearly the change from what we have to what we're proposing. And parenthetically, we've got to have a discussion about how the service fee, the base service fee applies. Because that's not currently in our existing
Right.
rates.
Right. It's the one that needs to be written up so we can understand what we decided on, I think, because it's
Right.
complicated.
Also, I agree with that, Tom. And I think that in addition to that, when we write that up, I think we have to consider what, if there's any differences or difference in the connection fees based on the size of the type of property it is, or the size of the meter. Like in some of the towns do distinguish that in their rates. In fact, I think it was Provincetown that had where it was actually in the work that in the work that Kurt had done, whether or not they reference yeah, well, they do distinguish between the 5/8 versus the 1-inch meters.
Is there a significant difference in our costs?
Yeah, the price on the meters.
Yeah, what are the different prices for the meters? I imagine.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, there are.
Is it
Karen?
significant?
Yeah, Karen, do we actually have a variety of different meter sizes going in typically?
Yes,
And what's
do.
that look like?
like price wise, I don't have that on the top of my head, but we have
Yeah,
different
no.
size meters that
Yeah,
have gone in.
Right.
Let's ask Jonathan here if he can tell us what the typical meter sizes are for various properties.
Yeah, typical residential house, 3 to 4 bedrooms has a 5/8 meter. And your bigger properties like the schools and some of the condo communities hooked up have 1.5 or 2-inch meters. And then there are several 1-inch meters out there. Not to be confused with pipe size though, because typically your meter size is a little bit smaller than your pipe size.
And why would there be, who would be using a 1-inch meter?
I can't, off the top of my head, I don't remember. I just know I've seen them.
Yeah.
But
Is that all?
where your service is much longer, that's set off the road, that could be one reason. Or just based on demand or what, the capacity that the house is going to need.
but looking at that document that Kurt prepared, for example, with Barnstable, there is the service fees that are reflected on there. For Barnstable, for example, are varied based on the meter size. For example, a 2-inch meter here on this form that Kurt did is the service fee on that is $125.32 monthly, or $1,503 a year.
That's strange because it doesn't cost you any more to run them once you put them in. As long as you have the initial cost, which if we
Just saying that that's what's on the schedule that
Yeah.
Kurt did.
I saw those prices, but it's not apropos anything. You buy the meter, there's a one-time charge for us, one-time charge for them. And so it's included in the hookup. I'd like to know what the spread of the cost of the meters are for different sizes. That would be interesting. And should we charge any more for? I mean, they're paying for the pipe from the curb stop to the house anyway, so they can pick any size they want. It doesn't have any significance to us. Whether it doesn't make any difference for usage. Just because the bigger line doesn't mean you have to put more water through it. So you get this thing simplified, but I'm wondering if there's a difference in cost from a 5/8 to an 1.5 inch, we'll say, of meters that's going to be significant to our charging the hookup fee.
Well,
Yes, yes.
well, again, it's interesting.
I will, Jim, let me talk to the sales rep, because those prices of those meters have gone up. So I'll call Joe and see if I can get some updated pricing, and all those meters are all different prices. They're not all the same.
Right.
I don't know that we understand really why the service fee would be, as Tom was suggesting, why the service fee would be different, but based on the size of the meter. For example, I mean, even Eastham has the service fee varies between $96 a year for a 5/8 up to $172 a year for a 1.5 inch.
That doesn't make sense.
I don't know why they do it. I mean, many of the towns do have that. Falmouth, Chatham,
Yeah, the thing that they're doing is, if you look at those rates, Tom, I think part of what they're doing is they're trying to capture the idea that that larger users should pay more. And what we've done is, if you look at their second and third block rates, their second and third block rates are substantially lower than ours. So the way they make that up is they charge more on the service fee instead of charging more for the water usage.
But I think our system is better because
Yeah.
the way you stop people from using more is charging them more for when they use more, not because they have the capability of using more.
Right. And also with our rate structure, that almost all, basically it's set up for, 20,000 gallons is basically that's 110 gallons a day for that user, which is the kind of the I would say the lower cost tier. And we're getting into our third block rate is almost 2 to 3 times higher than anybody else's for that last block. It's really, really high. Almost all of our restaurants and commercial customers are going to be in that very high rate for most of their water usage. So
as they are now.
Yes. And so they're going to pay, they're going to be paying a lot. They're paying a lot based on that usage fee. I do think that, we ought to be charging for a new customer for to the extent that the meter price is different, we're thinking like $750 for somebody who's putting in a 5/8 meter. But if the meter cost is, several $100s more to go from 5/8 to 3/4, and then a few $100s more to go from 3/4 to 1, and then more to go from 1 to 1.5, and more to go from 1.5 to 2, we probably want to prorate the charge for that connection fee based on the meter size. That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah. Connection fee should be dependent on the meter size, our costs.
Yeah. You know, so we can, so I agree. I think that makes a lot of sense, but I think we should go either one way or the other when it comes to the service fee and the water rate. And like Tom said, I think with our really high water rate, that's based on usage. And if you increase the service fee, it's whether they use the water or not. So, you know, I think like Tom said, I think our system encourages conservation better than having a service fee that they can't really do anything about.
Right. Better put.
Okay. So, Kurt, it sounds like you agreed that you would put something together for us that is in one document.
Yep, I'll do a current and proposed rates and explanation on the unit method and its application for multiple unit dwellings.
Good.
Okay.
Then we'll table that until the next meeting.
Is that something that you could have in a couple of weeks, Kurt?
Well, I'd want to get it done pretty quick. If we want to get the rates adopted by July 1st, which we've been talking about, we have to, I think we need to formally approve them. I can probably get a document together in the next couple of days, circulate that, and then if we could get a meeting together here sometime in June to do a public hearing. If we can do the public hearing in June at our next meeting, then we would be able to adopt the rates July 1st. But I think we want them to go into effect as soon as possible.
Do you know your posting requirements off the top of your head? Because you'll have to post it in the newspaper.
Yeah, public hearing is the same as, our meeting notice is the same. However, we have to advertise the public hearing in the local paper. So that means
how many days before the hearing? That's what I'm wondering. Do you have that in your regs? I mean, I could pull it up, I guess, but I didn't know.
I don't think we have it in the regs, but we'd have to, like the banner and the Independent have, I think, a Tuesday deadline. So we'd have to have something in to the papers by Tuesday for a meeting that would occur the following week, right?
Karen, you started to say it. Do you know the days?
I think it's 2 weeks before. Like
Typically,
14
that's what it
business
is for public hearings, but I think,
Yeah.
some regs say different things, so that's why I didn't want to say
No.
that with knowing.
I didn't see anything in the regs. I was looking at the regs today, but I believe it's 2 weeks.
So
Alright,
if
so-
we want to get this done before the end of the month, we would have to
Yeah, but
post
Jim,
it.
you're not here.
I know, that's why I'm trying to work this out in terms of the schedule on this. I mean, the next meeting that I'm available for would be on Tuesday, the 21st. But
Yeah,
I
but you
mean,
got a holiday before. The 20th is a holiday.
the holiday's the 20th, so, but does that count toward the 2 weeks or not?
No,
So we have to get it in 2 weeks and a day, in other words. We have to have it 10 business days and
do we know if it's 2 weeks though? I think that's like the first
we
step
have to
here.
look at the regulations.
Right.
I'm scanning them right now, but
If I can jump in, does the date that you actually vote on this matter? Because it's really going to come down to billing cycles when you're sending out the bills. You have to decide if you're starting for the November reads or if it'll be, if this is going to, it can't be in effect, I'm assuming, as of, May to November period. So does the July 1st even matter if you're gonna, you might not be able to put it into effect until you start the next billing cycle.
Well, it's when we approve it, that we're under the time restraints on right now. Once it's approved, we can say that it starts the next billing cycle.
Which won't begin until November is what I'm trying to say.
Remember,
Good point.
Not to slow everything down, but
No,
if that's
you're
how
right.
it has to work.
Yeah, no,
no,
you're right, Jonathan. It doesn't matter. You're right. Because the reads are in November and those reads in November will be billed out at the new rates.
Actually, will they be, or that's when they will convert?
Right. Because they'll come out and will be done in November. So that's correct. And
So
that captures the summer use, which is what our main concern is.
Well, but would it, Kurt? I'm asking if we switch it as a November or the November read, then we would still be on the old rates until that time.
No, we can change them and they would be billed out at the new rates.
But it would be, then you're saying that would be it would be retroactive to when the bid for the beginning of this current billing cycle. And I don't think that works.
I don't either.
It's sort of retroactive and prospective because it's
not, you can't go back now because our billing cycle started
Right. We have to finish up.
after the last read. The billing cycle started after the last read, which was in May, correct, Aaron?
Pardon me? We billed in May.
Okay, so the last read was in,
Like
Beginning
late
of
April.
May.
okay, so it was in late April. So we are currently, whatever water is being used is being billed, would be billed at the current or the old rates.
Right. So it's a moot point.
Yeah,
Come-
I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to wait, but I'll look up the regs because I think there's two questions we have about the regs. One is what our public hearing requirements are, and what our rate implementation requirements are. I don't think we have to wait a full billing cycle of 6 months before we implement new rates, but I could be wrong.
No, normally we up the rates in November.
Right.
That's what we did last year. We upped them in November.
Okay. But just as a matter of, of record, I'm just curious to find out what the requirements are.
We just went through the regs and we don't see anything in there that tells us what the advertising regulations are. So
Well,
if
my
it's a public
suggestion is-
hearing, it's usually 2 weeks.
I would go back to when you did your last amendment, Karen, see if you can find the files on it in your office. It looks like 2015. Is that correct? Is that the last time you made an amendment?
Yep, yep.
So see if you could go back to this July 21st and find the newspaper article and see what of course, we don't know if that was the right way to do it back then either, but at least you've got something to reference.
That's got to be written someplace in the town regs. That'll be straightforward.
We have the regs in front of us for the water department.
No.
There's nothing in.
For the town, when any board in the town is going to hold a public meeting, how much notice must they give? That's all we're.
Different for each
it's
regulatory
different.
board. It's not always the same.
Yeah, it's different, Tom, depending on the actual function. But what I can do is we have a resource at the American Public Water Association in Massachusetts. This woman that we talked to before, and I'll give her a call and see what she knows. But water and zoning are not necessarily the same.
But isn't it in our town regs what we have to give for notice?
No, state law, I think, is gonna dictate what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Or-
even conservation has its own posting requirements
Yeah.
per their law, so.
Yeah, I think it's state driven, Tom.
That would make sense. So you have to know, if you're gonna hold an open, you have to give a certain notice period.
Yeah,
would-
like
But
town
it's
meeting,
written
yeah,
some-
town meeting's one thing, conservation's another, zoning's another. They're all kind of different.
I better run for governor to get that straightened out.
Get everybody on the same page, huh?
Yeah. Right. All right, so we look forward to what you put together, Kurt.
Okay.
And hopefully we can have a meeting on the 21st at which we can review that. Ideally, if you can get that out to everybody before the meeting, then we can have a chance to kind of
Yeah.
go over it carefully, and then we can discuss it at the meeting on the 21st.
Yeah, it should be straightforward. I'm basically going to summarize the motions that we've done, that we've taken and that we've already voted on, and then just put it in a format which is much more user accessible.
Right.
And the ones we have to vote on next. The rate discussed today, yes. We need that, because we're gonna have to vote on that.
Okay.
Which one, Tom?
Well, we were discussing about the rates for residents, et cetera, that we were discussing today. We never had a formal vote on that, did we?
Yeah, we did. We actually, I think it was not last meeting, but the meeting before, we did vote on the change to dwelling.
Perfect.
And I think we clarified the method then, but I think everybody agrees it needs to be presented clearly for the public.
Right.
Great.
And it wouldn't hurt if we see it all together and vote on that as a single document then.
Sure.
Any other comments on this?
No.
Okay. So Karen just mentioning that she's going to be out of the office around then. So we'll just need to get the meeting of the 21st on the, I'll send you, Karen, I'll send you basically an email with the agenda for that meeting. And essentially, I think that the primary issue for that meeting would be the reviewing and signing off on this document that's going to be used for the public hearing.
Good. I
Okay.
think we were pretty productive today.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Did we have minutes, Karen?
Yes, we did.
17th, I think.
I'm sorry, I didn't read them. So I'm going to ask if we could defer voting on that until our next meeting.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Becky, do you have any further comments, questions, anything?
No, I just looked up the Mass General Law and I don't see any hearing requirements, but I'll do a little more digging for you guys.
I want to offer, if Jonathan, do you have anything more that you want to add?
Nope.
And I see we have Gail on the line as well. Gail, do you have any comments? You're muted, Gail.
I know it took me a while to find my mouse. No, I do not. I thought it was a good meeting.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah,
So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Kurt said so moved. Second?
Second,
Okay. Neil seconded. So roll call, Tom,
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
Kurt,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Thank you very much.
Aye.
And, Karen, the meeting is adjourned at 5:11. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.